We believe in something called the priesthood of all believers, which means that we, in theory, say that each member of the church is held to the same standards as any pastor or priest. That's a bold statement to say. I mean, at the very least, let's say pastor is not here on a Sunday morning or not at a Bible study. What that means is that any group of gathered believers ought to be able to do study and work on their own with the Scriptures, and each one of them ought to have some insight or some wisdom or knowledge to share. I'm not talking about public speaking, that's a different thing. I'm talking about knowing the Scriptures and being capable in faith. The last one. When you're baptized into a church, it means becoming mutually accountable with other Christians. When we are baptized publicly, we are saying that we are publicly following Jesus Christ, but that we are also asking other Christians to help us do that. This is technically called church discipline, which sounds like an awfully ugly word. And there are some good reasons for that. Over the years, church discipline has, well, there have been a lot of ugly incidents. And I'm sure some of the old-timers around here know some of the horrible things that have come in the hands of church discipline. But I would say that church discipline goes wrong when people start using it as a weapon, rather than using it as a way to help people that they genuinely love and deeply care about come back on the path of following Christ. That's what the core of this is. So, that's my sentence. Baptism is a symbol of an interchange that leads to a public commitment to follow Christ with other Christians. I have only scratched the surface of the implications for this statement here today. I could talk for hours on how this has been lived out in history and what it might mean for us today. I could talk for hours on the implications of what this means for everything from understanding the atonement of Jesus Christ to how you view the end of the world. There are implications for how we live together as a church and how we do mission work with other people. I could talk for hours, but I assure you that I won't, at least this morning. But I do want to make one last connection that I think is important, especially for this morning. Along with baptism, communion is a core practice of the church. And these two practices are intimately tied together. And they're tied together through the body of believers, the gathered body of believers. When you're baptized into a church, it is a sign that you're publicly following Christ with other Christians. You are agreeing to bind your life to theirs. Communion, then, in many ways is a reminder of that baptism and all that it means. Communion is a symbol of the sacrifice that Christ gave for us, but it is also a calling to follow that same path together with other Christians. Communion is an act that we do before the watching world that sets us apart. It reminds us of who we are and how we have committed to follow Christ and how we've committed to our fellow Christians. Baptism and communion are parallel acts that mirror each other in many, many ways. Another way to say it is that communion is a core practice of the church that is done by and for the people who have committed their lives to Christ and to each other through the symbol of baptism. This morning, I hope that I've given you a lot to think about. Hopefully it's not too much, but I do believe it's important. I hope you're talking about this and thinking about this for weeks to come. Again, I recognize that many people here see this differently than what I have just stated. But my genuine hope is that this is not the end of the conversation. My genuine hope is that this is the beginning of the conversation. I hope that this raises questions. I hope that it pushes some buttons, but I also hope that you don't walk away from the conversation. It is important for us to deal with it. This morning, I would invite you to all reflect on your own baptisms or your own commitments to follow Christ, or your own, wherever you're at in that journey of faith. I would invite you to ponder what that means for you and for the people that you're connected with. This morning, I invite you to ponder what it means to truly follow Christ with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength.